Daniel Romanov, professor of oceanography, had been at the bottom of the Mariana Trench for 6 hours. The sensors were already screaming, "Time to ascend." No one had ever spent this long at such a depth. The professor was just about to give the order to return when his assistant Mariana said, "Professor, look here," she pointed at the monitor. "Doesn't it seem like the water in that part of the seabed is a little different from the rest?" The professor leaned closer and frowned. Indeed, there, at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, was a lake. No more than 5 meters in diameter. Small enough to have gone unnoticed. And yet the water in that lake was clearly different from its surroundings. Daniel steered the bathyscaphe toward it and descended. There was no visible bottom. Even the floodlight failed to reach it. "Well, I'll be damned. Mariana, well spotted. No one's ever found this lake before. It looks like the Challenger Deep isn't the deepest point of the Mariana Trench after all. Let's go another 50 meters down, see if we can find the bottom," said the professor, guiding the bathyscaphe deeper. The team began their new descent. With every passing meter, the sensors beeped louder. The professor felt a wave of dizziness. "All right, let's take a water sample and head back. We've already made a discovery. Now, we'll need to design new unmanned probes to explore the new bottom," he said, halting the bathyscaphe and entering the command for sample collection. It caused a sensation. Their footage spread across the internet like wildfire. Interviews, talk show invitations, and with that came funding. Enough to develop a new, unmanned bathyscaphe capable of reaching the bottom of what was now called Lake Romanov, named after the discoverer. Daniel Romanov, though, in truth it was Mariana who had noticed it first. The water in the lake turned out to be fresh. That's why it appeared so different. Due to the temperature and density contrast, the waters didn't mix, making the anomaly detectable. Years were spent developing a stronger, more resilient bathyscaphe capable of descending. Below the Challenger Deep, the first one failed at a depth of 2 kilometers. The greatest discovery of that early phase was the structure of the trench itself, only the top. 100 meters of the lake were narrow, just 5 meters in radius, but then it widened dramatically. Several expeditions failed, till one finally succeeded. The bathyscaphe reached the bottom of Lake Romanov 20,000 meters down. Add to that the 11,000 of the Mariana Trench, and the total depth came to around 31 kilometers, thanks to a system of relay devices. Left behind by the bathyscaphe, the scientists received live footage from the abyss. It's a first surprise. It was bright down there. The light came from fish, evenly spaced out, as if someone had arranged them deliberately, illuminating the seabed for hundreds of meters. Of course, bioluminescence was nothing new. Many deep-sea species produced their own light to attract prey. But this looked organized. Then the camera caught sight of structures. Pens, perhaps. Someone had been farming fish on the ocean floor. Felt like a first contact, not with aliens from the stars, but with intelligence from the deep. More. Structures appeared. Fields of strange seaweeds arranged in tidy rows. Whole garden of underwater bushes bearing glowing fruit. None of the flora matched any known species. The view was breathtaking and utterly baffling. Calls flooded in from scientists all over the world. They flew to Moscow, desperate for access to the expedition's data. Spies tried to steal the bathyscaphe's blueprints. This discovery promised to change the course of human history. The lab door burst open. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped inside. "Good day," he said briskly. "General Sazonov. I'm now overseeing your project on behalf of the Ministry of Defense. No actions are to be taken without my approval. This is now a classified operation," he said, scanning the room. "No unauthorized personnel. Access by keycard only. Now clear out a large room for the soldiers who will guard the site, and a small one for me when I stay overnight." Romanov didn't seem surprised. The discovery was too significant not to attract military attention. He understood that his freedom was over. Every step from now on would be regulated by the military. So be it. "Yes, Comrade General, I'll see to it," the professor replied, wiping his glasses. "I hope we'll work well together." "Not necessary. the general said flatly, then left the lab. Marina gave the professor a concerned look. What do we do now? Nothing. Continue our work, Romanov said, putting on his glasses. Let's go look for life. But life found them first. As the camera spun, scanning for a new direction, something swam right up to it and stared into the lens. A man looked back at them. Well, almost a man. He was blue with gills and webbed fingers and a tail like a creature out of myth. Romanov stared at the screen, unmoving. The creature observed the camera for a few moments, then pushed away from the bathoscape and swam off. Follow him, Romanov ordered, astonished. Don't lose sight of him. Marina controlled the bathoscape directly from her computer. She had studied its behavior thoroughly during the descent and now piloted it with expert precision. Gradually, the isolated structures and scattered luminous fish gave way to a vast, glowing expanse. It's their city, ... The professor whispered, wiping sweat from his brow as if he were piloting the sub himself. My God, Marina breathed. They circled above the city, scanning it in awe. Ixtianders, as they would later call them. Lived in stone houses, like ancient Greeks. Where they had found stone at such depths was a mystery. Perhaps there were hidden deposits in the trench. Why would they need houses? Marina wondered aloud as she turned onto another street. There's no rain, no wind. Maybe they have private property to store? Maybe the houses protect them from large predators, the professor replied, jotting a note in his pad, something he did often so as not to forget later. The Ixtianders darted away from the sub just as humans might shy away from a slow-moving UFO drifting through the streets of Moscow. Professor, look closely, Marina said, zooming in on one of them. They're communicating. Indeed, the creatures were making sounds audible, but incomprehensible. At that moment, the general stormed into the lab again. I've just been briefed. What the hell is that? He barked, marching up to the console. He shoved Romanov aside and stared at the monitor, blinking in disbelief. Can we catch one? I wouldn't go that far, but we could invite one in. Marina, can you land the bathoscape and open the hatch? Maybe one of them will come aboard. Just keep in mind, they likely need salt water to survive. Otherwise, we'd have seen them in the freshwater layer above, so don't drain the water when you bring it up, and ascend slowly at this pressure. A rapid ascent could kill them. And honestly, I can't promise they'll survive at the surface at all. You've already given them a name? The general raised an eyebrow. Fine, it's Theander it is. I'll report upstairs. Don't say a word and don't move a muscle until I return. Understood, General, Romanov nodded. Not that he agreed, but the scientist in him had to study these beings up close. Marina landed the bathoscape and opened the hatch. At first the Ixtianders scattered, as if bracing for something to emerge, but as time passed, they grew curious. Soon, several swam around the sub, examining it. Just then, the general returned. Headquarters, once one captured, brought to the surface, and made contact with. Right at that moment, one of the creatures swam inside. Marina, seal the hatch and bring it up. The hatch slammed shut. 10 seconds later, the bathoscape lifted off the bottom. The others, realizing their companion was trapped, surged forward. Pounding against the sub, one even produced a stone from somewhere and began smashing it against the window. They are clearly intelligent, the general muttered in awe. They certainly are, the professor agreed, unable to hide his excitement. The bathoscape, accompanied by a group of Ixtianders, approached the passage through which they had first entered the trench and began its ascent. Judging by the fact that none of the creatures followed them into the corridor, it seemed likely they truly couldn't survive in fresh water. I'm flying to the research vessel that will receive the specimen. I'll be directing the operation from there, said the general, rising from his chair and turning to the professor. You can come with me if you like, of course. I'll be ready in 5 minutes, Romanov replied quickly. Then he turned to Marina. Marina, dear, remember the pressure. Bring it up very, very slowly. Yes, Professor, she answered, eyes locked on the monitor. The journey was exhausting, nearly a full day. First a high-speed drive to the airport, then a government flight to Guam, then a helicopter transfer to a military vessel already approaching the recovery point. And from the warship, they had to board a launch to reach the transport ship that would hoist the bathyscaphe. This time, they were joined by an entire entourage of politicians, journalists, and military officials. Members of parliament, the presidential administration, the FSB, GRU, and many others. Romanov felt out of place in their company. Everyone came to congratulate him. Journalists waved cameras, bombarding him with questions. He was relieved when they finally reached the transport vessel, and he was given a private cabin. He locked himself inside and remained there until the bathyscaphe was retrieved. Mariana had done everything perfectly and right on schedule. The bathyscaphe was lifted onto the deck. Everyone gathered around it, hesitated to approach. No one knew what might be seen through the porthole. Romanov, however, knew how important first contact could be. Without hesitation, he stepped up to the window and looked inside. There it was, the merman. As soon as it spotted the professor, it swam away toward the far end of the chamber. It was frightened too. That, in a way, was reassuring. Romanov gently placed his hand against the glass and waited. The creature simply watched him for a while. Then, slowly, cautiously, it drifted closer. Finally, it raised its hand and pressed its webbed palm against the porthole, palm to palm. Thus, the first contact was made. The professor suggested leaving the creature inside the bathyscaphe and transporting it that way directly to Vladivostok. There, it could be relocated to a massive aquarium. The aquarium was found at the Vladivostok Oceanarium. Its other marine inhabitants were moved elsewhere, and the merman's chamber was transferred to a nearby military base, along with the bathyscaphe itself. No one knew how the creature would react to open air, so Romanov recommended submerging the bathyscaphe directly into the aquarium. Once done, the hatch was opened and the creature swam out. The bathyscaphe was removed. "Hello, Ruselka," the professor said, placing his hand on the glass. But this time the creature didn't approach. It merely glanced at the gesture, then resumed swimming in slow circles, clearly trying to comprehend its new surroundings. That first day, Romanov didn't get another moment of peace with the merman. There were too many officials, reporters, and soldiers. Everyone wanted a selfie, or tapped on the glass like it was a zoo exhibit. To its credit, the creature didn't show fear. If anything, it seemed curious. It studied the humans as intently as they studied it. For something in captivity, it carried itself with surprising dignity. That attitude, more than anything, convinced the professor they were dealing with a highly intelligent species. It was both mesmerizing and unsettling. The first few weeks passed in observation. Romanov made several attempts to initiate communication, but the merman showed no interest. It didn't even swim toward him. Thankfully, it had a healthy appetite. For sea plants, which made feeding easy a relief, since nutritional complications could have been disastrous. Then one day, Romanov entered the lab and found Mariana staring intently into the tank. "What is it?" he called, putting on his lab coat. "I'm not sure," Mariana answered, eyes fixed on the water. "It might be eggs." The professor repeated in shock and rushed over. Sure enough, floating among the seaweed was a cluster of translucent eggs. So, are Ruselka female? Or do males give birth? Mariana asked. "It could be like seahorses. The female deposits the eggs into a pouch on the male, who fertilizes and carries them until they hatch." The professor speculated, examining the water closely. "Here, maybe the eggs are laid and fertilized inside the pouch, then released after a certain period. But I'm just guessing." He immediately called the general to report the development at the emergency meeting. It was decided that the eggs should be removed. The risk of breeding an unknown intelligent species was deemed too great. Extracting them wasn't easy. The merman resisted fiercely, destroying every net lowered into the tank. It became aggressive, protective. They were forced to sedate it before collecting the eggs. The eggs were sent to military research labs. Romanov was denied access to the results. When the merman awoke to find the tank empty, something changed. Its defiance vanished. It drifted listlessly, clearly distressed. Mariana was especially shaken by its sadness, and often stood by the tank, trying to offer silent comfort. The merman seemed to recognize this. It tolerated her presence more than anyone else. Sometimes it even swam near her when she was close. Then one day, when Mariana was alone in the lab, the merman tapped on the glass. Startled, she stepped. "Closer, Urar," it said suddenly, sending a stream of bubbles into the water. "Urar," she echoed, baffled. "Are you trying to tell me something?" The creature nodded, pointing at itself. "Is that your name?" she guessed. Another nod. "Mariana," she said, pointing at herself. For the first time, she saw it smile. "Can we talk somehow?" she asked. Urar nodded again and mimed holding a pen and paper. Later, Mariana approached Romanov. With an unusual request, they needed something to write with underwater. Supposedly, there were special markers or paints used by scuba diving artists and naturalists. And so, a dialogue began, slow and halting at first. Mariana would ask a question, Urar would answer, then vice versa.
Yes.
Romanov explained life on the surface. Urar described the world below, a bond formed between species. Romanov came to a profound realization. This was an extremely advanced being, far beyond humans in some ways. Practically immortal, they rarely died naturally. Death came. Only through accidents, falling rocks, predator attacks. Even at 31 kilometers deep, dangers existed. Urar sketched the predators of his world. Romanov, in turn, showed him pictures of surface creatures. They shared knowledge. One day the professor confided in the general, "Sometimes I'm afraid of him. Not only has he learned our language, but he's grasped our concept of time yesterday, today, tomorrow, even a year ago. And yet down there, they have no sunrise, no seasons. Their sense of time must have been completely alien. And now he navigates our chronology, like a scholar. I pray we never go to war with them. We wouldn't stand a chance." The general said nothing, but his expression darkened. Days passed, weeks. Romanov learned more and more about the Ichthyosaurs. They cultivated seaweed on underwater farms. They used trained fish as transport like horses or elephants. They had bioluminescent lamps. Docile fish raised for light, fed regularly. They reproduced rarely, either when a member died or to settle a new territory. Most of their vast world was uninhabited, dominated by hostile predators. With no metals or trees, their weapons were simple, stones. Romanov silently thanked fate. They lived on opposite sides of the trench. If they had shared an environment, humanity would not be the dominant species. Then, the lab's quiet routine was broken. The general burst in and pulled the professor aside. "What is it, Comrade General?" "Our lab received unexpected results from the merman's eggs. There's an unknown compound. In short, it's a cure for cancer, and for all other known diseases. We've already tested it on animals, and even on some people," the general said, eyes gleaming. "We're launching a new expedition to capture more of them." The professor was speechless. A cure for cancer. He had lost family to the disease himself, but these were sentient beings, possibly even superior ones, to be locked in cages and harvested for eggs. "General, they're alive, intelligent. Imagine aliens invading Earth and using your children for medicine. Isn't that inhumane?" "Enough with the humanism," the general snapped. "You know what's inhumane? Burying children who died from illness? That's inhumane. And this isn't children. This is Roe. People abort babies all the time, and that's legal. But you're worried about fish eggs?" He paused, then added coldly, "The next mission will be run by the military. And frankly, you should be removed from this one too. Pack your things. But before that, you have one last task." He leaned in. "Have your Urar record a message to his kind. He's being treated well. Invite more to come. Understood?" "Understood," said the professor, and stepped into the lab. Slamming the door behind him, Mariana sensed something extraordinary had happened and asked directly. But the professor didn't answer. After a pause, he said, "Let's go to the bar tonight. I just need to get completely drunk." Yor watched everything closely and seemed to understand with perfect clarity that everything was about to change. His eyes were filled with worry. Over cognac at the bar, the professor told Mariana everything. "We have to do something." "What? What can we do?" First, Marina said, nervously playing with her beer glass, we tell you the truth. Ask him. To record the opposite message, one that warns his people to stay away from the bathyscaphe and not to trust humans. Second, we have to save your. Get him out of here. If they manage to catch another one, they'll tear you apart in the labs too. It won't just be about the eggs. Yes, but how do we pull that off? The message, maybe. But how do we move him to the sea? I think I've got it, Marina said, smiling. Several labs have been asking for samples of the tank water, hoping to study it. The water's transported in huge barrels you could easily fit in one. All we need is official permission from the general. I don't know. I'm not sure we're doing the right thing, said the professor. It's a cure for cancer. Shh, the general said it cures everything. Millions of lives could be saved. Am I ready to sacrifice them? That night they returned to base without a clear answer. What weighed more, the lives of millions of humans or the life of a merfolk species? The professor slept badly. He dreamt of trials, with parents accusing him of letting their children die. It was unbearable. In the morning he called the lab, studying the eggs. He needed to know, was the general telling the truth? The answer shocked him. Yes, the eggs had healing properties. Several test subjects had recovered and remained healthy. But that wasn't the main thing. The real miracle, the voice said, is rejuvenation, not just skin deep. 70-year-old liver starts working like it's 20 again. We already have a line of billionaires waiting to buy it. The professor was stunned. They had discovered the cure for all disease and were using it to rejuvenate the rich. That was the sparkle in the general's eyes. That was the truth. Well, that settled it, Marina. We're saving your and his people. Really, what happened? They're not saviors. They're profiteers. The operation starts in 3 days. Talk to your, explain the situation. Get him to record a warning for his people. Put it on this flash drive. Tell them not to approach the bathyscaphe. Humans bring death. By evening, both the flash drive and the transport request were ready. The professor headed straight to the General, Comrade General, sir. Here's the recording. Yor was delighted by the idea of meeting others. He'll be happy not to be alone anymore. Well done, Professor. The motherland won't forget this. You'll be a national hero. We'll save millions thanks to you. I'm honored. Truly. Anything else? Yes, some labs have been asking for aquarium water samples. They want to analyze it for possible compounds. Here's the paperwork. It just needs your signature to authorize the pickup. Just don't drain all the water, eh? The general chuckled and signed. The form 2 days later, the general left the base. We've got less than 24 hours, said the professor. Once they hear the real message, they'll pull us from the lab. No room for mistakes. The truck will arrive in the evening. Fewer people on base then, Marina confirmed. Perfect. The day was excruciating. Everything slipped through the professor's fingers. Doubt swirled. Maybe the military did have noble intentions, but the memory of that voice, bragging about billionaire livers, erased those doubts every time. A phone rang in the lab, Professor Romanov speaking. Your water pickup trucks arrived, the guard said. As a signed order from the general? Yes, we're expecting them. The professor ran out. The truck backed up to the loading bay. 5 barrels, each 3 meters tall, each with a ladder. Perfect. Your would fit easily. They rolled the barrels inside. Thanks to the crane still mounted from when the aquarium was delivered, the transfer went smoothly. Your swam into the first barrel. Marina climbed up, smiled, and closed the lid. Your smiled back. They filled the rest with water, loaded them onto the truck, and prepared to leave. Security at the gate was always strict. The guard climbed onto the truck, opened the first barrel, just water. A voice called from the guard booth. Vashia, you're going to miss the final round. MMA or boxing, whatever it was, the guards were. Glued to the screen, Vasia opened the second barrel. It's just water, the third. Same, Vasia, he's getting hammered. Get over here. Vasia opened the fourth. His flashlight went out. He tapped it. Nothing whatever, he muttered and climbed. Down. Go ahead. The truck drove out from the bushes nearby. The professor exhaled so loudly he was sure someone would hear. Then he sprinted to a nearby car. Marina was behind the wheel. We were this close. Let's catch up to them. We still have to convince the drivers to unload at the sea. They left the base without issue. The guards were celebrating their fighter's win. Meanwhile, the bathyscaphe was reaching the ocean floor. Familiar terrain surrounded it. It stopped in the same place as before. The hatch opened. Almost the entire merfolk tribe was gathered. They were waiting, but the chamber was empty. The general personally played the recording given to him by the professor. When it ended, the merfolk all pulled back at once, visibly alarmed. The general exploded. "Where's the professor? Get him on the line now." Minutes later, "He's not here, sir. Neither is the assistant. The creature? Gone. The tank's empty." "What?" The general roared. "They set this up. This is treason. Find them. Bring them back alive." The professor alive? Not required. His assistant will be more cooperative after. 2 armored trucks were dispatched. A drone was launched to sweep the area. Meanwhile, Marina overtook the transport. Truck and flagged them down. "I know how this sounds," the professor said, "but you need to reroute to the coast. Right now, sorry, sir. We're under orders to deliver to the base in Vladivostok. They won't take the shipment. This is pointless. Drive to the sea. Sorry, I could lose my job." "If you don't," said the professor, pulling a pistol from his coat, "I'll shoot you right here." Even Marina gasped. "Professor, please, I'm not joking. Your friend can stay here. You'll drive. I'm coming with you." The drone flew overhead again. The driver didn't hesitate. They headed for the ocean. 15 minutes later, they saw the shore. "Unload the first barrel and lay it on its side," the professor ordered. The driver obeyed. The professor rolled it toward the sea. Armored trucks arrived. A loudspeaker crackled. "Professor Romanov, step away from the barrel. You will not be harmed. Refuse, and we will fire." The professor kept pushing. Another order. Another warning, then the shot. The bullet hit his shoulder. Blood poured. He screamed, switched shoulders, and kept pushing. Another shot. It hit his leg. He fell, but belief gave him strength. He crawled. The barrel touched the surf. He opened the lid. Water spilled out. He gave one last push. The barrel floated just enough. Yor was free. 2 more shots rang out. Both hit the professor in the back. He collapsed into the water. Marina ran to him, screaming. She dragged him out. He died in her arms, Dash smiling. Yor was free. His people had a chance. Soldiers arrived. They arrested Marina. The driver, too. An ambulance followed. Far below in the deep, Yor had seen it all. His face was blank. Not a trace of sympathy. No parent forgives the death of their children, even when they were still just eggs. Yor had never told the professor everything. That males could freeze their offspring in times of danger. That he had done so. He stroked the pouch at his side and swam away. To raise his nearly immortal children, and perhaps one day return for vengeance.